Ladies and gents, welcome to this video. My name is Taylor Benchy. We're going to talk about why you must scale your agency. Recently, I got a really good email from somebody saying, hey, I'm doing about $40,000 a month with 70 to 75% profit margins. I saw that you were doing about $100,000 per month with 20,000 profit. You know, it seems much easier if I was to stay at 40 to 50,000 with 70, 75% profit than go double my revenue and actually make less profit. So I'm going to answer that question in today's video as to why it's important that you do go and double the revenue and take less profit opposed to staying small with higher profit margins. Really good question. Let's get straight into it. Before we do, this is important to you because if you're running an agency and you think it's better to stay small, in my opinion, you're wrong. And I'm going to challenge you today in this video. So here we are in the slides. This was actually the email that I received from the friend. You can hit me up with questions and comments for video ideas and I will answer. But the number one reason as to why you must scale is for resilience and or adaptability. Okay, now let's break down what that means. But first, just a quick reiteration on what we're solving for here. There's an agency doing 40K. There's an agency doing 100K in monthly revenue. The 40K agency at MRR is doing 30K in profit. The 101 is doing 20. Why in the world would you want to scale to 100K MRR for less profit? Here's the answer. The resilience and adaptability, if the agency has scaled properly, of the 100K per month agency should be much better than the 40K MRR one. Okay, why would that be? For example, an agency at $100,000 per month in revenue may only have less profit margins because they're scaling and so they're hiring more proactively and or they've hired people that are working 100% on the business, okay? I've talked about this before in previous videos, how there's a difference between OTB and ITB, okay? OTB is very simple. It stands for on the business. ITB stands for in the business. OTB means you're improving the actual business, working on it, making the systems better. ITB means you're doing the service delivery work. You're servicing the clients and or maintaining simple parts of the business like accounts receivable, etc., making sure your books are in order, stuff like that. Now, the agency at 100K MRR should have a stronger team, which makes them more resilient and adaptability and able to adapt in the markets. Okay, this is kind of why you see the largest agency in the world, WPP, huge agency conglomerate. Their revenues in 2019 was $12 billion. And their margins, it's actually not on this sheet, but I looked it up. I tried finding it. It was about 12%. Okay, so their margins, 12%, right? And that's the largest agency in the world. I can't speak on behalf of software companies and tech companies like Google and et cetera, Microsoft. We're talking about agencies here. Agencies are a very different business model. They're very people intensive, and typically margins, when you get to a larger scale, will decrease. But it's possible to build $1 billion agency and net billions of dollars. So anyways, WPP is a good example. That agency, would you bet on an agency doing $12 billion a year in revenue with a $1.2 billion a year in profit? Or would you bet on an agency that's doing, like $30,000 a month in profit? I know the scale is way off, but even if it's the same, we're trying to get the concept here. The infrastructure of the bigger agency doing exponentially more revenue with less profit is going to be able to adapt better. Okay, here's the second thing. You as the agency owner, specifically to the person who reached out to me, because there's many other people in this situation. I've been in the situation. I'm currently kind of still in the situation. It is pretty difficult to maintain 75% profit margins as you scale. The only reason you can typically maintain that kind of profit margin level is because you as the founder or the founders are doing a lot. They're wearing a lot of hats, and they may even still be doing ITB work in the business, service delivery type work. Okay, and that means that the business is very dependent on you. And if you're managing a lot of ITB in the business, like I could probably manage $35,000, $40,000 per month worth of revenue by myself, if I had no team. And I used to once manage 35 to 37, 38-ish thousand. It was absolute chaos, but my margins at that time, if I only had like a virtual assistant, could have been easily 80%, and I could pay myself, $10,000 a month, or for $6,000, $7,000 per month. But if I go into a coma, the business dies. This is what we're talking about when we get into resilience and adaptability, right? As the agency grows, you're sacrificing profit margin for resilience. So if you look at it on a graph, it kind of like, it's almost somewhat like this. Margins will go down. Let's just make this line red. And the black line is resilience. Okay. As you eat into your profit margins and you hire better talent and you begin to focus solely on the business work, and you have silos in different departments, like there's a dedicated marketing team, there's a dedicated sales team, there's a dedicated account management team, there's a dedicated support team. You have a client, somebody dedicated to client experience. They don't even manage any MRR. They're just solely dedicated to client experience. Your resilience goes way up, but your margins typically is going to go down. But that's okay, because you're sacrificing margins for resilience, which in my opinion is a much better decision. Now, there is nothing wrong with running your agency at 75% profit margins for a year and stacking up a good amount of runway so that when you want to go and make this leap, which truly it's a leap of faith. I mean, you're crossing the chasm here. This is the little bridge, ladies and gents. This is the bridge where you go from 6 figures to 7 figures, where you go from 7 figures to 8 figures, 8 figures to 9 figures. And not always does your margins need to go down to 10%. I mean, I've seen agencies doing $500,000 per month, maintaining margins up to 40 to 50%. So, but it typically doesn't maintain above 50% with an agency. Again, we're speaking to agencies here, that type of business model, because they're very people intensive. Maybe there's an agency out there that I'm just not aware of. But 10 to 20%, somewhere in that range, if you're doing, $5-10 million a year as an agency, is pretty typical, at least from what I've seen and what I've heard in across the markets. So this is what you're sacrificing, and this is why it's important. All right. That's, in my opinion, why you must scale your agency. It's not fun to get sick and worry about your agency dying because there's nobody who can maintain the business. It's not fun to think about the idea of you dying and your agency dying because you were so dependent. The agency was so dependent on you. And now what happens to this, business you built? It sucks to think about that. And you shouldn't build a business that dies without when you die or when you stop working. You should build one that grows without you. All right. Really quick, ladies and gents, I want to add this into this video. I found this is a really super important real life example as to what we're talking about here and why you must scale your agency. We almost killed an agency in the growth of our agency. And let me explain to you this story. So we have a recruiting system, what's called Trojan Horse Recruiting. We headhunt different people across the markets. And so we hired somebody from one of our competitors who, I don't know, maybe they were doing $80,000 a month, maybe 60, probably somewhere between 50 to 100. And that person that we headhunted from that company turned out to be a great hire for us. We were really stoked with him as a hire. And then we needed to hire more people. And so my first instinct was, well, let's reach out to more people from that company where we found him. And we did. And 2 more people from that company were interested to join our company. And we were about to hire 2 more people from that company until we got a call from the owner of that company. Well, not really a call, but an email and somewhat blackmail, basically stating that if we hired those 2 people, we would get into a lawsuit because we already hired somebody else, blah, blah, blah. And there was some employee solicitation contract that was signed, yada, yada, yada. Point is, I called the founder of this agency. Okay, I called him. I said, look, I know we already hired one of your people. We're trying to hire more of your people. This is a pretty shitty situation. How can we try to make this a win-win? And basically, what he had told me in that conversation was that if we took 2 more account managers from him, his agency would have died. Like he said, we would die. Like that's kind of how he framed it. Like we would be in a terrible position. It would be horrible, blah, 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 and we might go out of business. And it really made me think, wow, that's crazy. It's that easy for your business to die, right? And so this is where we get into the conversation of resilience and adaptability. Because if you're doing $40,000 per month, the math is it's the same, right? The average salary of somebody that manages accounts for you, let's just say it's $5,000 or per month. No, let's just say it's roughly $6,000 per month, average salary of an account manager for your agency. At $40,000 per month in revenue, you can only really have like 6 account managers, right? At 100, you can have more than double what you could have at 40. It makes you more resilient. Okay, that's what we're getting at in this video. You don't want to be the agency owner who, when you get 2 of your people headhunted and they leave within 1 week, all of a sudden you're going out of business and there's no way in which you can recover because you weren't prepared for something like that. Okay, so ladies and gents, this is why I preach that you shouldn't stay a freelancer. This is why I preach that you shouldn't stay small as an agency owner if you're doing 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 per month. This is why I preach that you go to the fucking moon and you scale this thing to the absolute limit while building a great culture and just having a fucking blast doing it, because that is what makes this whole thing so fun. That's why I'm so excited about Agency Enlightened. And that's why I'm just so stoked to work in Better AMS, which is our advertising agency. So build something big, ladies and gents. Don't stay small. All right, much love. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And yeah, stay tuned for more videos. Much love, guys. Ciao.